Hey, everybody. Welcome once again to the Dino and Dino's Youngstown Studio podcast show on a Monday, August 11th, 2025, with me, Dino Jr., and Dad, Dino's here. And we got our special guest on in the studio, Chris Bailey from California.
Yeah, everybody, welcome. We want to welcome our friend Chris Bailey, and we're broadcasting live in Youngstown, Ohio, and we want to welcome him to our podcast show here in beautiful Youngstown, Ohio. Welcome, Chris.
Well, thanks for inviting me. I've been aware. Dino's, I think, is my number one fan from Runaway, or he's the number one Runaway Brain fan. Not my
Yes, I am.
Well, we want to tell a quick little story about us. We're associated with a internet radio show called www.goldenstringradio.org. It's in Youngstown, Ohio. Our studio is a couple streets over from here. And it's an internet radio show run by adults with disabilities. We've been doing that for about 14 years. And we hooked up with our friend Joe Danier, who's an engineer, producer, owner of Youngstown Studios, who does podcasts. And he's allowed us to come in every once in a while and do live shows and with celebrities and guests. And we're doing that today to welcome Chris Bailey, who is a film director, actor, and I'm reading your biography here real quick. TV producer. And Chris has worked on several studios in his decorated career for both Nickelodeon and the Walt Disney Studios. So that's a very impressive resume there, Chris. And I'm going to read off real quick some of these great films that a lot of our listeners have probably seen and heard about. We know you've worked on Lion King,
That's
Little
right.
Mermaid. What else, Dean? Great Mouse Detective.
Great Mouse Detective. Oliver and Company.
Oliver and Company.
Rescuers Down Under.
Rescuers Down Under. Hocus Pocus.
In fact, I got a.
Wait, we'll show that later.
Okay.
Okay. And Kim Possible. It's Tough to Be a Bug. And Scooby-Doo. You've worked
That's
on
right.
Scooby-Doo. And your awards and nominations in 2005, you got the Daytime Emmy Award nomination for Outstanding Children's Animated Program for Kim Possible. And this is the one we want to talk about. 30
years ago.
30 years ago. Read that, buddy.
Oh, 29 years ago.
Chris got an Oscar nomination.
In 1996, an Oscar nomination, Academy Award for Best Animated Short Film for Runaway Brain, 1995.
Runaway Brain, right here.
And there it is right there.
This is the poster.
That you sent me.
And it was today it was released, right?
On this day in 1995, August 11th.
So that's why we're going to celebrate this short. And Chris is going to tell us about the short and the little controversy that came with it. Okay, is that right?
Controversy? I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, we read about it, right? There's got to be some controversy, right?
Maybe a little.
Little bit. But before we do that, we want to get into your early life and tell us about growing up. And as a kid, you probably watched a lot of cartoons. Some of your favorite cartoons as a kid.
I was probably equal. I was equal parts science fiction fan, cartoon fan, and comic book fan. I loved like superhero comics, and on TV, I loved I was that. You probably guess my age by Runaway Brain, but I watched Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea and Lost in Space and Star Trek, and so anything that was kind of fantastic, I just loved. But then I loved Warner Brothers cartoons just for the energy and the humor, and especially Chuck Jones cartoons. So I always thought I would probably be a comic book artist. But when I was in high school and I started thinking about, well, where am I going to go to college? I'm not really a fine artist guy, so an art school didn't make a lot of sense. And there wasn't at that time a place where I could go learn how to become a better comic book artist. But there was Cal Arts that had a Disney animation program. And while animation, it's kind of hard to believe, but back in 1980, when I went to school, the animation, it wasn't as popular as today. So I just figured whatever I learned there would just make me a better comic book artist. And it seemed a lot of fun. And when I left school, I just happened to ride that wave of the popularity of the resurgence of Disney. Disney wasn't my first job. I worked a couple small jobs first, but animation was getting popular. I don't know if you know the video games Dragon's Lair and Space Ace from Don Bluth, but I was a young animator and I worked on Space Ace and Dragon's Lair 2. And that's where I really kind of got my Disney level animation chops. And I was at Disney, I think, about a year after that.
So how did you apply? Like, how do you apply at a studio like at Disney? Like, you go to, is there like an office you go to and say, I want to be an animator, or how did that come about?
Yeah, I mean, now it's a little different because there's such an online presence and there are recruiters and there's specific people to reach out to. But at that time, you literally, you could just walk to the front desk and say, yeah, I'm submitting my portfolio, and they give you a paper to hand out, and you write down what job you're applying for, and you leave your work, and then they call you back and say, we're not hiring, or yeah, come in for an interview.
Hey, I don't want to interrupt. We'll get back to, but I want to read some of our comments.
Jerry Reese.
Jerry Reese wants to say hello.
Oh, Jerry. Oh, nice.
He says, hey, Chris, so happy to listen in on to you today. You're on an awesome show.
That's Jerry Reese from Brave Little Toaster.
Yeah.
We're gonna get Jerry on our podcast too. And we have our friend from Ireland, Christina.
Hey, Christina.
Her and her sister Louise. And Melina's listening from Russia. Art Dubin from Chicago. Haley from Delaware. These are just some friends that are listening right now, and they're saying hello to you, Chris. They just want they're listening.
Fantastic. I bet.
But speaking about Warner Brothers, I don't know if you knew this. The Warner Brothers started in Youngstown. Did you know the story about that?
I don't.
If you Google that, the Warner Brothers lived in Youngstown, Ohio. This is like 1907 or something like, and they started here. And they were showing silent movies here, and they opened a theater in a little town called Newcastle, Pennsylvania, which is about 20 minutes from here. And there's a museum here. But long story short, they started here but moved to California. So if you want to ever check that out, the history of the Warner Brothers,
okay,
they started there too. But let's get back to Chris's. Story about working at Disney. So tell us, like, what was your first job at Disney?
Well, now that I think about it, I was working for a friend of mine, Daryl Van Sitters. He had a freelance unit, special projects unit that was making Mickey shorts. They were doing a Sport Goofy short. They had another one with Mickey, Donald, and Goofy in the Navy called Swabbies. And I was a freelance artist, so I would go in and I would pick up my scenes and get my direction from him, and I'd go home and I'd animate them and bring them back. And for the Swabbies, Daryl liked my work enough. He said, look, we have an opening for an in-house animation director. Would you want to come work for us in-house? And of course, how could you say no? Disney, shortly thereafter, they closed down that unit, but they were finishing the movie The Great Mouse Detective. And when they would finish these movies, they at the beginning it's going kind of slow, and it seems like half the movie is done in like the last quarter of the time. So if the movie takes a year to be animated, probably half of it is done in the last 3 months. And so they asked all of us working in Daryl's Sport Goofy unit, if we would come over and help finish Great Mouse Detective. So I did, and I was there. I finished that movie. But then I actually got a call from a friend of mine, Bill Croyer, who just has a book out now called Mr. In Between. And I had met him years before, and he asked me to come do computer graphics at a company called Digital. So I went there for a year and did computer graphics. Then that studio went out of business, and Disney said, hey, do you want to come back and work on Oliver and Company? So then when I came back to Disney, I stayed for about the next 10 years.
Awesome. That Oliver and Company Oliver and Company is one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, wasn't Billy Joel in that?
Yeah, yeah.
Did you get to meet? You probably met him, right?
No, I didn't meet anybody. I was an embryonic animator at the time. I was in my room drawing the dogs.
Yeah, see, a lot of that comic book stuff, you don't get to see the people a lot of times who do the voices, right? You do the animation, and then they come in separately and do their thing.
That's right. I think when you become a supervising level animator, many times you're invited to the recording sessions, and then of course once I started directing, I'm obviously there to give direction to the actors.
Haley says Bette Midler too was in that movie as well.
Bette Midler?
Yeah, Hocus Pocus.
Okay. Speaking of Hocus Pocus, Halloween's right around the corner, right? And show that to Jerry there. I'm sorry, Chris.
I have an autograph of Jason Marsden, who voiced Binks from the cat in the Hocus Pocus movie. You worked on the Hocus Pocus movie, right?
That's
you did
right.
The cat.
I have something I can share here.
Okay.
1 second.
He's going to share us with the cat. Hey, hi to Art. Hi to Christina, Jerry, Haley.
Okay.
Art Dubin. Hello.
So this, there were some shots where, at the end of the movie, when Binks runs across the ground and up the tree, and he jumps on Bette Midler's back, and he's attacking her, and she grabs him and she throws him off her back.
Yeah.
Remember that? Yeah.
Well, it's a real cat that we trained to run across the ground and jump off the tree and land on her. And then what she did is she reached back as if she wanted to throw the cat off, but she would just really kind of just hold it to her back and then move forward like that. And then we would cut to the wider shot where she was holding our stuffy stunt Binks, and then this would fly through the air.
So that's the cat from the movie? That's the cat from
This actually is. And the poor thing is rotting away. Its poor ears are falling off. It's seen better days. But yeah, on the last day of shooting, I just took Binks home.
So you took him home. That's cool. That's cool. So it's cool. That's Binks from the movie, Dean.
Yeah, that's a stunt.
I'll keep him here. Yeah, we call these stuffies.
Stuffies.
Yeah, and then later on when I worked on the Alvin and the Chipmunks movies, we would have little stuffies that I and others would actually perform on the set, jumping around to block out the choreography and work with the actors. And then of course we take them out, and the actor just sort of remembers where they were, and then we animate the characters later.
Awesome.
Have you ever worked with Jerry Reese?
I don't think we've actually worked together directly, but we've known each other, since the early 80s.
You guys worked in a studio together, or?
No, because I must have been doing something else, because all my friends from my Cal Arts days worked on Brave Little Toaster, and I had to be busy doing something else. Otherwise, I'd have worked on it too. If you had me, I guess.
Yeah.
Awesome. I would like to say hi to Jerry Reese. He's actually watching the podcast right now. Hi, Jerry.
Jerry's watching right now. So, think about Hocus Pocus. It's great to make a film that's shown every year, like at Halloween. They'll show that. So you must be proud of that. The part that you played in that film.
Yeah, no, very much. It was interesting how that came about too, because I was at Disney Feature Animation. I think it was about the time of Oliver and Company. I'd have to check the dates. I think we'd finished up Great Mouse or Oliver. And Peter Schneider, the head of the company, the vice president, came into my office and said, "Hey, I want you to take a look at these tests for this movie called Hocus Pocus. They're trying to make the cat talk, and they had a meeting with us, and they're not sure what to do." And I said, "Oh, talk to Chris Bailey," because I had a CG background and a traditional animation background. So I met with Ralph Winter, who's a friend of mine. He was a producer of the first movie we worked together with. And they showed me a test where they painted the mouth on the cat talking. Then they showed me a test where they used a 2D morphing process on the photography to make him talk. And then when he opened his mouth, they had a 3D like set of dentures in there. And then they showed me the rhythm and hues test where they actually cut the cat's off at the neck, cut his head off, animated a CG head, and then put a digital neck back in to connect the two. And so none of them were really quite working. And so my opinion was that the painted version, no matter how great it was or how good they did it, it would just look like a better version of what we've seen in movies from the 1940s when they would make animals talk.
Awesome.
The 2D version, the 2D warping version, I thought was good, but you'd be limited in that you'd have to get the real cat to be looking exactly where you wanted it to look. So my opinion was we should go with the 3D head so we could actually tilt its head and have it squint its eyes and pull its head back and actually act it. And so they agreed to not do the 3D test or the 2D test. They had me work with the 2D morphing test and the 3D people, rhythm and hues. And then ultimately we picked the 3D test and I stayed on the movie as the cat animation supervisor. And it was nice because I got to be on set and shoot some second unit work and act out, work very closely with the animal trainers. And in the beginning, I would do storyboards of the scenes, but the director would look at them and say, well, can the cat do that? And I'd say, oh yeah, sure. So then I'd go shoot little video continuities, 2 or 3 scene continuities, working with the trainers. And then ultimately, I just stopped doing boards and I would just shoot video storyboards with the real cats and the trainers.
Now you as an animator, what do you think of like the Pixar, like the Toy Story? That's not drawn, correct? They don't draw those. But
well, no, they're CG puppets that an animator is posing. But I love those movies, and those animators are artists, and they
do they draw? They don't draw those. Those look computerized, aren't they?
Well, the puppets, the actual characters are computerized, but when they make the movies, it's very much like a traditional animated movie where they paint backgrounds for art direction. They do storyboards, hand-drawn storyboards of the characters. It's just at the end, instead of an animator drawing those characters, modelers build these little puppets, and the animator goes in and poses that puppet.
Yeah. Go ahead, Dad.
Oh no, I wanted to know, because back in the day of the Disney studios, they'd have an ink and paint department, a background department. It seemed like it took so like the classics like Snow White, Bambi, they took so long to do, but something like Toy Story in the computer world would be faster. Is that right or wrong?
No, they take just as long to do.
They do?
I think whenever a new technology comes about, I mean, we'll see where AI lands, but like when Disney moved to computer ink and paint and doing backgrounds digitally in the computer, all it really does is opens up the canvas so people get more ambitious with what they want to do. But no, I mean, they're never quite this binary, but if you were to think about the movies being in script development for a year, it's being storyboarded for a year, and the animatic being refined, and then actually taking about a year to be animated, that kind of gives you a nice ballpark of how long it takes. The difference is, you're right, in CG, I as an animator will pose the character and I'll manipulate the spline program so the in-betweens work the way I want. There isn't a need for an in-betweener or a cleanup person. I think the movie Dinosaur Disney, they had assistant CG animators.
Oh, yeah.
Called them the Tails and Toes unit. They'd make sure that the toes had nice squash and stretch when they hit the ground, and the tails moved and all that.
Yeah. How does the the voice acting and the sound effects come in? Do you draw first and then the voice actors, like say someone's yelling, like the character's yelling, they'll draw the character yelling and then the voice actor will yell? What comes first?
Well, in storyboards, the story team, they'll actually animate and draw the characters performing it the way they hear it in their head. And this may happen before the actor is even hired. So if a character is yelling, "Stop!" they'll draw that, "Stop." And then they'll communicate to the actor that, "Oh, you're yelling. You're afraid someone's going to run off a cliff, or they don't see the giant truck, coming at them, it's going to run them over." But then what happens is you go to script and you have the actor record those lines before the animator animates it. Because the animator, when they listen to that scene, they're listening to the rhythm and the cadence and is it, "Oh, stop, don't go," or is it, "Stop, don't go"? They want to be informed by that performance.
Why don't you tell some of our friends that are listening if they want to send a question to Chris?
If you guys want to send a question to Chris Bailey, just type it in there. Type your comment down in the chat box and
we will
get your
question over to Chris.
And over to Chris, and we'll get it over there.
And our friend Melina from Russia, she drew this picture of you, Chris. See this here?
Yeah, thank you for that. It's for taking the time. I think it's funny, that picture was taken when my son went to NYU Film School. And that picture was from a lunch we had in New York City.
That was done by Melina Skorkina. That's her name.
Is she all the way from Russia?
All the way from Russia.
Wow, fantastic!
And we have Christina listening from Ireland right now.
Haley and Jerry Reese.
Haley, Art, a lot of other friends listening here on Youngstown
Podcast
Studio. So, but what we want to do is we want to celebrate
the Runaway
Brain back here. This is the one that
this is the
movie poster, correct?
That's right.
The official one.
And the official poster. 30 years ago today, it was released
in 1995.
And let's try to set that up. I guess Mickey at the time was having you guys wanted to bring Mickey back. I think it was his anniversary of his 80th birthday. Is that correct? Is that what was happening?
When I was at Disney, it seemed like every year there'd be some kind of anniversary of Mickey or the studio, and they would say, "Hey, let's do a Mickey short. We should do that to commemorate this anniversary." But Mickey at that time had become a corporate symbol. They weren't making cartoons of him. They were trying to make him cool. Sometimes he'd be in a jacket with the sleeves pushed up or pop the collar, like was popular in the 80s.
Yeah.
And nobody really knew who he was anymore. And so the shorts would get developed, but nobody could agree, well, how old is he or what kind of job does he have? And the deadline would come and go and they wouldn't make a short. So eventually, like everyone who went into development, it was my turn to develop Mickey cartoons. And we developed a cartoon that called Tourist Trapped, which was sort of, I recycled a Roger Rabbit idea. And we actually got all the way through animatic, but before they decided, let's not make this one. But I reminded them of one of the other cartoons I'd pitched. Oh, there was a ghost cartoon, which is like an updated version of Ghostbusters.
The Lonesome Ghost cartoon.
Yeah, there was like 6, I think, that I pitched. And I think the runner-up was Runaway Brain. And I said, hey, well, what about Runaway Brain? Remember, we all like that, the brain switch idea. It's edgy, it's contemporary. And what I had the benefit of Disney just having hired the Paris animation studio, and they needed to put a project through it. So I think I just lucked out that they had a cartoon they wanted to make, and there was a crew available to make it. So that's how that came about.
Awesome.
Well, when you watch that cartoon, there are a lot of things in it that if a child would not catch right away. You know, like in the beginning when Mickey was playing a video game.
It was based on Mortal Kombat.
And there was the witch from Snow White was fighting Dopey, I think. Yeah. So you took, who came up with those kind of ideas? Was that you or?
No, that was my main story guy was Todd Kurosawa, and he's really, you know, I mean, Tim Hauser wrote it. We back up a little bit. When I was developing Mickey cartoons, I was just in my office doing drawings or little situations that I thought would be fun. And Tim Hauser was a friend of mine from Cal Arts, and he was writing them. And I actually have back here like the original like drawing that I did, and I had pinned on my wall.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Wow.
And Tim came into my office one day and he said, "That's funny. What's that one about?" And I'm like, "I have no idea. I just thought it was funny." And so he came up with the brain switch idea. So when we started developing the cartoon, Todd Kurosawa came on as my main storyboard artist, and he just started fleshing out these ideas. And, you know, maybe I think playing the video game or the mismatch or the misdirect of you think that a burglar's in Mickey's house and it turns out to be him playing a video game, that may have been in the script or it may have been mine. I can't remember. But the actual idea of the video game was Todd's to do the Snow White. And when we first pitched it to Jeffrey Katzenberg, he thought it wasn't advanced enough because even at that time, people were, they'd come out with wands and guns and things that you could shoot and be a little more interactive. And he wanted us to push it much further. So Todd and I talked, and I think I was working on Hocus Pocus at the time. So I would actually go over to Hocus Pocus, then I'd like come back at the end of the day or check in on him and see how he was doing. And he pitched me this idea where it was the Bambi video game. And so you still outside, you still heard the blam, 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 you know, run, Pluto, run. And or duck, Pluto, duck, I think it was. And you cut inside, and it was Mickey shooting the screen, and you saw Bambi running, and the shotgun blasts were blowing holes in the bushes, and Thumper would go flying out, and Flower would go flying out with like 100 points on them, and Mickey would say, "Run, baby, run!" It was hilarious, and it was edgy, and you know, I was like young and aggressive, and I had this idea of what I wanted to do, and so I pitched it to Tom and Peter, who were the execs at the time, and I pitched it with the same energy I just pitched it to you, and Peter just looked at me and he said, "Not a chance in hell."
Yeah.
So so ultimately we went back to the original idea, the Kung Fu Mortal Kombat game.
Real quick,
because Mortal Kombat was popular at the time, around that time.
We want to stop it here, but Art Dubin from Detroit has
a question. Art Dubin says, "Chris Billy, what is your favorite cartoon animated short?" He said.
Wow, gosh, that's a great one. There's so many. I think I can never remember the exact title, but it's a Ralph Phillips cartoon directed by Chuck Jones, because he directed from A to Z. And there was another one that I always forget the name of the title, and I think it's that one. But it's the one where he daydreams as the guy rescuing a submarine, and he cuts a saber-toothed tiger shark right in half. But it's that cartoon, no question about it. I mean, there's others that are great. I mean, What's Opera Doc is brilliant, and Rabbit of Seville, and but I think that one is probably my favorite. Maybe someone can do a search while we're talking, and they'll come up with the title.
Okay, now we'll get back to Runaway Brain. There was a part where The Exorcist was kind of mentioned in there. Okay?
That's right.
The Exorcist.
One of the classic scary movies.
Yeah, it was like see, a lot of kids wouldn't get that, right? You'd have to be, maybe that's a little more adult, correct? Right? I
think that's right, but I think that's kind of the key of Disney movies in general, right? So, like, take Aladdin, for example, when the genie is saying, "Hey, I'm walking here," to adults that have been around, and they know, oh, that's a reference to a movie I saw years ago.
The Midnight Cowboy.
That's right. So kids, that's just the big blue guy with a big attitude,
Yeah,
right? It's
yeah.
a funny moment. So when you can do both those things, I think you're really hitting a home run. So Ian Gooding, for that, I'm sure I know the drawing came from Todd's storyboard sketch, but Ian he looked at that moment from the movie and he just made sure it had that.
Do you
same
have to get
attitude.
do you have to get permission, or is that copyrighted or no?
No, not to parody a scene like that. You can do that. Other areas we came into issues with, we would have had to buy the music for Tubular Bells, the Exorcist music,
Yeah.
which Jeffrey said was worth it and we should totally buy. But then when the price tag came in, they went, "Nah, we're not paying that." So the gag really works better when it was with the original Exorcist music. But when you watch the cartoon, it's a facsimile. But the other areas we did get into some issues with are, the classic Universal Frankenstein that we're all used to with the tall forehead and the zipper neck and the bolts. That's unique to Universal's Frankenstein. So, I was really pushed on how many of those things I could do without getting in trouble with them, and Disney saying, "No, you can't do that." But then if you don't do some of those stereotypical things, people won't understand that you're doing the Frankenstein monster. And there was one of the original endings had a very clear Bride of Frankenstein joke that Todd storyboarded that's still my favorite ending to the cartoon. We showed it at CTN last year, the storyboards. But we couldn't do it because it was a joke where Minnie got electrocuted, but her hair had those little zigzag lightning bolt.
Yeah, looks like a cupcake, right?
Like a cupcake.
That's right, and
Yeah.
so we couldn't do that. So yeah, things come up, and they tell you what you can do or what you have to change.
Dina, why don't you tell Chris I know you love the voice actors. Tell him the voice actors that were in Runaway Brain.
Oh yeah, Mickey and Minnie were Wayne and Rusty at the time, and I went to their graves in California.
Yeah, 2 years ago we were in California, and we went to the cemetery where they were resting, and so we got to see the graves of Mickey and Minnie. And tell the other voices.
Another Bill Farmer as Pluto, Kelsey Grammer as Dr. Frankenelli, and Jim Cummings as Julius.
And the thing too, Chris, is we've met all those people. We've met Bill Farmer, and he's been on our Golden String show for an interview. We've met Kelsey Grammer at a Comic-Con. And Jim Cummings.
He's from Youngstown here.
He is born in Youngstown.
Wow, fantastic. I didn't know that.
You knew that? Yeah, he grew up a few blocks from here. He went to high school here. His story was he went to high school. He worked here for a while, but they decided to go out to California and try to do some voices. And he ended up being voices of Tigger and Winnie the Pooh and Darkwing Duck. But he's from Youngstown. And
I've worked with him on a bunch of projects. He also did voices for the movie Hop. I directed a little short. I directed the animation of the bunny for the Hop movie.
Oh, and, the Hop movie for DreamWorks?
No, it was Illumination.
Oh, Illumination. Okay.
Yeah, the Easter Bunny movie. James.
Oh, yeah, that movie.
And I directed a short that came out before the DVD release. And the actors who did the movie couldn't do it, but he did the voices for that.
Awesome.
Yeah, so we've met him a lot of times, and he knows us from Golden String. Yeah. And we're gonna tell you some of the people maybe.
Melina says, "I don't have any questions. I just want to say that Chris Bailey is a great legend, and I'm so happy to meet you on the podcast, and I'm so happy that you like my drawing. Thank you so much, and my best wishes from Russia, including comrades Dino's. Prayers,
nice.
Heart emojis.
Thank you for that.
You see that, Chris? We're bringing Russia and America together through animation, right? And we could have peace in the world through cartoons.
And Christina says, Chris Bailey should have a Hollywood Walk of Fame star.
That's what Christina from Ireland said.
Let's start a petition.
Yeah, we should get that. We're gonna throw out some names of people that maybe
Sure.
you've worked with that we know that've been on our show. How about Rob Paulson?
I've never worked with Rob until just recently. One of the animators at Exceptional Minds, he was doing a short for Cartoon Network, which I guess is like not with us anymore. But Rob, Craig was a big fan of Rob's, and Exceptional Minds reached out to Rob to see if he would do a voice, and he just said absolutely. So I got to know Rob just through that cartoon recently.
Right.
Awesome.
How about Maurice LaMarche? Do you know?
Yeah, I worked with Maurice on a little bit on Scooby.
Scooby-Doo.
Awesome.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Scooby-Doo
Awesome.
and Guess Who?
Who else have we?
Jess Harnell.
Jess Harnell. We know her and
No, him.
Oh, him. Yeah.
Jess Harnell, who
I
does.
don't think I've worked with Jess. Do you know what? Can I say something about two things about Rusey and Mickey and Minnie? Rusey came into one thing that the studio really wanted was for Minnie not to be the damsel in distress, which was difficult because she actually is kidnapped in my cartoon and Mickey has to rescue her.
Mhm.
So, in Minnie, Rusey originally was doing her, tremolo screaming bit. And then I said, well, what if you do that, but what if you then get aggressive and fight back? Like, how would you do that? And so she just was like, oh yeah. I remember her smile, and she all of a sudden, she contributed the line, rip his ears off. And for other moments, instead of being a traditional, the 1930s Minnie, she would play certain lines a little more businesslike. And it just made her a little more modern, a little smarter. She was wonderful. And then Wayne, when at the final confrontation at the end, one fun thing with Wayne, whenever he'd do Mickey, to get into the voice, he would warm up and he would, do these voice exercises like, oh, 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 oh. And he laughed to get the tone. And, there's not a lot of laughing in Runaway Brain. It's a pretty serious cartoon, but he would still do the laugh. And then I would just ask that he give me, I didn't have to ask, he would give me a little bit of space so I would cut the laughs off. But he had great fun at the end where he played it serious, like, let her go. Where usually he's always just happy Mickey and he's kind of doing the same sing-songy thing. They really enjoyed sort of being a more dramatic version of themselves.
When he said "let her go," was that a window washer he was using or something?
It was, but we used the cocking of a shotgun for the little ratchet thing. And there were some people that swore we had Mickey with a shotgun. It was like, we don't have Mickey with a shotgun. It's for crying out loud.
Yeah, that's a lot of things they did with the Warner Brothers. The same thing, or not Warner Brothers? Yeah, Looney Tunes.
Looney Tunes.
Yeah, they're Elmer Fudd with a shotgun. They don't like that. Or what's the cowboy's name?
The cowboy.
Yosemite Sam.
Yeah,
Yosemite Sam.
He's got guns. They kind of don't like that no more because of.
Yeah, it's a different time. Yeah,
right.
Different sensibilities.
Now, Runaway Brain.
I'm sorry.
Runaway Brain was premiered with the movie a Kid
in King Arthur's Court.
That's right. They advertised it with that movie, but they actually played it with a bunch of movies. I think
like a Goofy movie?
I think they played it with a Goofy movie, not everywhere, but some places. But they also just played it with other live action movies. I think the theater had the right to move it around because I got emails from people, or not emails, but mail from people saying they saw it with this, that, or the other thing.
We got Haley's got a question there.
Haley says, has Chris Bailey got to meet Haley Mills?
No, I have not met Haley Mills. That unfortunately.
And she says a lot of Disney workers like to talk about Haley Mills to me.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, no, of course I know who she is, but no, I've never had
Christina,
that.
what's Christina say there?
Christina says, awesome, talented legend. And then Jerry Reese says, Chris, I loved your show. It's tough to be a bug in 4D.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
Well, it was, it was a theme park short. I think they've just finally taken it down. It had a great run. It's with the Pixar characters, Flick and Hopper, and there were some new characters that we designed.
All from A Bug's Life, right?
Bug's Life, yeah. So
Yeah.
it was, in the story goes, originally this was designed for the Wild Animal Park in Florida. And then when Michael Eisner was having a tour of the place while it was under construction, he walked to the tree in the middle, the Tree of Life, and said, "So what are we putting in here?" And, you know, they're like, "Oh my God," they weren't planning on putting anything in there. So they said, "Oh, I guess we could put it in a gift shop." He goes, "No. We got lots of gift shops. Think of something else." And so they went back, the Imagineers, and they started thinking about, well, what can we actually fit into that space? And they realized that they could put a theater in there. So they decided they created Tough to Be a Bug, which is a Flick and Hopper show. And when you walk into the theater and you put your glasses on, there's a pattern on the screen, and then butterflies fly off, and they reveal the next chamber to the tree, which is the 3D film. And it's 4D because there's live action spiders that come down, there's bugs that run underneath your butt across the seats, and all kinds of things like that.
Well, the controversy is, I'm going to show everybody here at the poster, is the evil Mickey, right?
The evil Mickey.
Is that what happened with Runaway Brain after it was released 30 years ago? Did you get feedback from that?
Sure. Disney was really good about sending, email or mail, fan mail, whether it was positive or negative. And, so I got emails saying, "Wow, that was the coolest Mickey cartoon I've ever seen in my life," to "How dare Disney make Mickey cartoons like that? They shouldn't make cartoons anymore if you're going to cater to the skateboard crowd." And
that was from parents or parents?
Yeah,
or
parents, I think. Like my 2-year-old was scared or whatever. And, the thing is, I actually I responded to everybody, and I actually sent everybody back a drawing. And I said, well, don't tell them they shouldn't make more. They shouldn't make cartoons anymore. Say they should make more, because for every one you don't like, there will be 10 that you do like. And I'm sorry you didn't like it, but here's a nice Mickey that you can, that I can ask your apology.
Now, was it like pulled from they wouldn't show it for a while? Or?
Well, I don't think so, but I think they don't really acknowledge it. It was released on a Laserdisc. Back when
Laserdisc, remember those, Dad?
Yeah.
Of Mickey's Greatest Hits in Japan.
Okay.
But yeah, they don't really acknowledge it. I think that's not just the image they want of Mickey out there. But I do want to talk about sort of why I sort of went this way with Mickey. It's not like I created out of whole cloth. I just cherry picked my favorite Mickeys over the years. But I think that's it. They just was like, that's not the image we want with Mickey. But occasionally merchandise comes out in the park. Or I was at the Disney commissary a while back, and the special that day they called the Runaway Brain for some reason. So, I don't know. And one other thing. Let me get something else over here. I should have had all this in front of me.
Christina has a message there when he comes back.
Okay,
you say.
There are these cool toys that are popping up in other parts of the world. There's this fantastic Julius.
Oh, look at that!
Julius. Look at Julius right there.
That's from the movie. Yeah, look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that.
And he's got a peg leg there too.
He does have the peg leg, which we should talk about the peg leg.
Yeah.
And then there's this cool.
Look at that.
Look at that. He's in black and white too.
Yeah, there was a black and white and a color version. I like the black and white. And then there was this cool book that came out in France, which is great because it was animated in.
Wow! Look at that.
Mickey perd la tête. Mickey loses his brain.
It's funny how the brain goes through his ears.
Well, Ian Gooding did. What's cool about this is they actually use frame grabs for the images in the book.
Mm-hmm.
But Ian Gooding did a suggestion for the movie poster that was all black and had like one of those old Frankenstein type lights or light bulbs shining down at a jar that the Frankenstein's brain was in, and it had the Mickey brain with the 2 ears showing. That joke was James Fuji, a storyboard artist. He came up with that joke.
Okay.
But he just painted this little thumbnail painting where that was the title or the movie poster. It was so great, but they want big happy Mickey on the poster. So
we talked about like Pete originally was mean to Mickey all the time. He was bad. But what's that thing on today called?
Mickey Mouse Clubhouse.
Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. Are you familiar with that?
Sure.
Pete is like Mickey's friend now. I was trying to explain to Dino, maybe they don't want to teach kids about being a bully or mean. What do you think of that? Is that right or wrong?
I don't know.
Pete was a mean guy. He was always being mean to Mickey.
Maybe they've evolved them now where they think they're all like a theater troupe. They all gotta work together.
They're all friends. They're all friends.
Yeah. I don't know.
It would be like Popeye and Bluto, right?
Yeah,
Bluto being nice to Popeye.
It seems weird to me because again, like I grew up watching science fiction and comic books, and I loved Warner Brothers cartoons. I actually wasn't a huge Disney fan growing up. I saw a couple movies when I was a kid. I saw Peter Pan and Jungle Book, and I loved them. No question about it. But I wasn't like a huge fan. And it's because when I watched Star Trek or, Man from U.N.C.L.E. or any of the stuff with my dad, it was life and death drama. And I loved that. Or horror films, the Wolfman was going to eat you and kill you. Uh-huh. And when I would see, like say Sleepy Hollow from Disney, which is, just a brilliant short, or featurette, I hated it. Like I loved it at the end when the Headless Horseman shows up and it's a life and death chase. But then they throw in a gag in there where his nose gets caught on the tree and he goes around and it's comical. And I always felt that those comical moments that keep the little kids engaged, they were really keeping me from enjoying the drama. So I always lean toward, it's like something being a little more aggressive, a little more action adventure, which is why Runaway Brain turned out the way I did. And Pete was a monster. He had no interest in being friends with Mickey.
You were probably a fan of Johnny Quest. Did you like
God,
Johnny?
I love Johnny Quest. Absolutely. As a matter of fact, on Kim Possible, we specifically gave her the black turtleneck with the half sleeves as a homage to Johnny Quest.
Awesome.
Yeah,
I have to watch Kim Possible again. It's been a long time since I watched that.
Kim Possible. It reads, Christina says,
what a gentleman, Chris Bailey.
Oh.
And Melina says,
awesome toys.
Absolutely. That you're a gentleman. Yeah.
And Kaylee Bullen says, it's kind of like a Wreck-It Ralph thing. Pete was just made to be the villain.
Like a Wreck-It Ralph.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Pete was made to be the villain all the time, yeah.
But how did you get Kelsey Grammer to voice Dr. Frank and Ollie?
There's a wonderful casting department at Disney, and he was just one of the choices, and we were told he was interested and that he wanted to come see it. And I know he had not done a voice in a Disney feature yet. I think he was interested in it. Mm-hmm. So maybe he looked at us as, a way to break the ice or something like that. But I remember him coming in and I pitched him the storyboard and thought it was funny. And, we have these little color models, when we're developing the look of the cartoon, and somebody on the color model drew Mickey and they put a French beret on him and they gave him a cigarette and stubble. And we left it pinned up on the wall because we thought it was funny. He thought it was funny. So I guess he just thought it would be a good fit. But it was really that simple, They just reached out to him and he'd say, sure, I'll take a look at it. And then he ended up being Frank and Ollie.
I heard that Dr. Frank and Ollie was based on Frank Thomas and Ollie Johnston.
Yes, but originally, I'll go back even further. He's actually, if you know the old Floyd Gottfredson comic strips, he bears a striking resemblance to Dr. X. There was a mad scientist called Dr. X, then there was Double X and Triple X. And he was Dr. X in the first draft. And then I think it was Jeffrey or maybe Peter they didn't want him to be Dr. X. And so we just changed his design a little bit. And Todd Kurosawa, he came up with calling him Dr. Frankenolly.
Awesome.
What was that short you were telling me, Dean, that back in the
short,
it was a
the Mad Doctor.
Mad Doctor.
Yeah, that's a dark cartoon.
Yeah, no, that was.
I don't think you can see that on Disney Plus today.
No, was that kind of based on the Runaway Brain kind of a thing, or?
Well, when I was one of the things that would come up when people were developing Mickey cartoons is how old is he, and I always felt that when Mickey and Minnie were younger, they were like just post high school. I don't know if they went to college, but they lived on their own and they were dating, and Mickey would fight the boss, or they'd have these adventures like young people. And then later, when the cartoons became a little more safe and arguably a little more boring, instead of like fighting the boss or whatever, Mickey was like having a fight with like the wind and the leaves in the backyard because he was trying to rake the lawn up with leaves. And like, what kid cares about raking the leaves up in the lawn? That's not interesting. So I went back to the early Mickeys, Plain Crazy, Brave Little Tailor, where he actually fought the bad guy and saved the day. And the Mad Scientist was this cartoon where Mickey is kind of like Dragon's Lair. That I think about it. Pluto had been kidnapped by a mad scientist who had strapped him up and was going to cut him in half and graft his body onto a chicken. So he'd be half Pluto, half chicken, to see if it would lay an egg that would hatch a flying dog. And Mickey had to fight his way through this haunted house, past all kinds of terrible things, to rescue Pluto. And I was like, wow, that's like a really dark and like classic horror. So I'm like, well, what if I could take like the Mickey I like, the athletic, young 20-something, late teens, early 20s Mickey, and sort of put him in a situation like that where he could be physical and save the day.
Speaking of haunted house, what's the short where Mickey, Goofy, and Donald are ghosts?
That's Lonesome Ghost.
Lonesome Ghost, which is they kind of ripped off Ghostbusters from that, right?
Yeah, very similar premise.
Yeah, they would go fight ghosts, and I think the studios took that maybe or got an idea from that and made the Ghostbusters movies.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I wonder like how generic that premise is. I mean, I wonder if you dug through all the Three Stooges, if there was a Three Stooges cartoon where they fought ghosts too.
Maybe. Right.
I don't know. We had a more modern version of that, and a good friend of mine, Eric Piggers, he has a website called Toxic Tunes. He was a fantastic cleanup artist at the studio, but he did some development art for a more updated version of Lonesome Ghosts, and the ghost still kind of had that 40s look, but he gave them like sharp teeth and knives where they look like gang members kind of, but it was still kind of 40s friendly. He really like found this wonderful style.
Dino, he kind of tells me he misses the Disney Channel. It's not the same.
The old Disney Channel.
When the Disney Channel first started, you would see
it was a family program
like Mouse Tracks or Quack Attack. They would show the
Disney
shorts.
Afternoon.
They would show all the shorts, that you guys made and produced, but they don't do that anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Warner Brothers has kind of done the same thing where you can't really find Looney Tunes anymore, on TV, and it's just a shame.
Well, let's update what's Chris Bailey projects today in 2025. What are you working on today?
Well, there's a fun development project I can't talk about yet because it hasn't really gone forward. But I've just had a lot of fun. It's dealing with some well-known characters that are kind of being brought back, and I came up with a concept to put them in a show together. And I just finished a little. Do you know? There's a producer friend of mine who I worked with on the live action Garfield movies. He called me out of the blue and he said, "Hey, I'm directing these Pep Boys commercials." And
you mean that dog food commercial?
No, the Pep Boys. It's an auto parts store.
Oh, okay.
And there's
Pep Boys, the car.
Yeah.
The car.
Yeah, So they have these mascots, these three guys, Manny, Mo, and Jack, who work in the garage. He says, "Do you know of anybody that could animate like a tag for a commercial for me?" And it's like, I'm not doing anything. So I just finished that for a friend of mine. I'm working on Major Damage, my personal short cartoon. Those are storyboards behind me. And I teach at Chapman University, anything from beginning animation through advanced animation to Storyboard Pro, and Exceptional Minds, where I'm helping produce some short cartoons there.
Real quick, Haley says Looney Tunes can be found on MeTV.
MeTV is it cable or is it what's MeTV Tunes? What is that?
Probably a cable.
Is it cable or something? I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's a streaming service, MeTV. It usually has a bunch of old vintage shows.
Christina says we need the old cartoons back, and Melina says agreed. And Jerry says
Manny, Mo, and Jack fun.
Manny, Mo, and Jack fun.
And Haley Bowen says Disney Plus plays some of the old Disney shorts. You should go on Disney Plus and watch them.
Hey Chris, can we put you on the spot before we go?
Sure.
If you have a sketch pad there, could you do a Mickey for us real quick? Can you do that?
Oh no, I actually can't draw on my laptop.
Oh, okay.
I mean, right freehand there on a piece of paper or something to show our friends.
Binks.
We like
Binks.
There's Binks. So we're going to remember that when we watch that, Dean, this Halloween.
Awesome. I got to show you at the end credits. When the end credits come up on the screen, I'll show you where Chris Bailey's name comes up on the end credits.
Yeah, I'll look forward to that. But I want to see when Bette Midler throws Binks. We'll know that we saw Binks. Can we see you do it, Jerry, while you're doing it?
No, well,
I
don't know how. I don't have another camera up here.
Okay,
I don't think I can.
Oh, that's okay.
But we'll do it another time.
Okay,
but I have another question. Do you know who Tad Stones is?
I do know Tad. Yeah, he's a friend of mine.
Awesome. He's the creator of Darkwing Duck and Chippendale Rescue Rangers.
Yeah,
Who's the new voice of Mickey now?
Brett Arwen.
Brett Arwen.
I love that you know this stuff. You know so much more about it than I do.
And I think Minnie's is Caitlin Roback, I think her name is.
Okay.
Caitlin Roback.
Yeah.
Hey, can I share one other thing I have?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure.
I have some of the maquettes.
Look at that, Dad.
I think we're coming to
this. So Bruce Lau was our sculptor, and Disney features, they would make maquettes of the characters.
Wow. Look at that.
And you'll notice like Mickey originally, his chest is kind of narrow and his hips are a little bit wider. And so for the monster, we flipped all those proportions. And here's Dr. Frank and Ollie.
Wow. There he is. Look at that, Dad. That's the Kelsey Grammer character.
Right, Kelsey Grammer voiced that character, right.
Then,
well, Chris, we have to, we got to wrap it up here.
Of course.
But we want to thank you so much for giving us your time and all your knowledge and all your beautiful stories about Runaway Brain and your life and your animation and working at Disney and Nickelodeon. And we just thank you so much.
Oh, thank you guys. I could talk animation all day long.
And we want to thank all our friends. There's that picture.
There's a picture of
Melina, Christina, Art, Haley for all tuning in, and Joe Danier for hosting us here at Youngstown Studio.
Yes, the unseen genius.
Yes,
and I'm glad to support you on Facebook and give you any updates on what could happen in the future, Chris Bailey.
Likewise.
I'm glad to be here.
Meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
We're going to have Jerry on too, right? Jerry Reese who's coming on.
Yeah, we're going to
get him on,
and I'm glad to be your friend, Chris, and support you on Facebook. And I'm glad to help you out.
Oh, our next show will be with Randy Rogel.
You ever heard of
Randy
him?
Rogel?
I don't think I know Randy.
He's
the guy who
the music with Animaniacs.
The Animaniacs song.
The
Animaniacs. Fantastic.
Yeah, we're going to do a show on August 25th.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Same time. So if you want to tune into that, we'd appreciate that.
I will. I'll keep my eyes peeled for a post.
Thank you. God bless you and your family. Stay healthy. And how do we do? How do we do here?
How do you do? Oh,
Yeah.
top shelf. No.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank
All right.
you.
Bye, you guys.
Bye, guys.
Thank you for listening to this show on Youngstown Studio. This is original Youngstown content. Feel free to share our videos and tell your friends about us. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us